Explain like I'm 5. How does the cartel make so much money when the percentage of people using drugs is so low? This whole post is referring to this statistic. The cartel is so rich and has so much power, which makes me wonder how the hell are they making so much money if there's quite a low of percentage of people using drugs. Most drug users wouldn't disclose they use drugs in a survey. Drugs are expensive. Cartels do more than deal drugs. The answer is very simple: drugs are expensive. And even if only a small portion of people use drugs, that's still a lot of people over the scale of a whole country. IIRC in the US. Cocaine usually costs around $100 a gram. But it does not cost anywhere near $100 a gram to produce and even transport over international borders. If a gram 1/28 of an oz of cocaine is $100, then a kilogram 2.2 pounds is valued at $100,000 on the street. Even considering the high costs involved in drug trafficking, that's still an enormous amount of money. The answer is relatively simple. Drugs are sold with a huge margin. They're overpriced. A brick of coke may cost tens of thousands on the street, but in terms of production, that kind of money equates to a truckload. This means that a successful delivery and sale can cover a lot of losses and then some. Drug policy here. Drugs don't cost much to produce, are cheap to distribute, involve little capital investment, sell for high prices, and crucially, it's pretty much all cash and nowhere for it to go. The cartel is a few dozen people, rolling in cash and unable to invest it. So they bribe, party and blow it on whatever takes their fancy, including, of course, assassinating rivals and threats. A lot is lost or wasted. One mid-level US distributor estimated that only a quarter of the money made it back to Colombia. 1,500 tons of cocaine, even at wholesale prices, is a lot of cash. If you think very few people use drugs, you don't actually live in America or are completely socially blind. People don't admit to doing drugs, especially not in surveys. Lots and lots of people do drugs, and almost everyone is addicted to something, whether illicit drugs or something else. I guess diamond users are low percentage, but they are also rich. Or sports cars. Or big yachts, or whatever you can think. So many things in this world are used by a very, very small percentage of people, and that doesn't prevent it from being extremely profitable. The entire GDP of the world is $100 trillion. If 0.5% of that is involved in organized crime, that's a $500 billion per year industry. And they don't like to market share, so that money gets heavily concentrated. Cartels sell and do more than drugs. They human traffic. They sell weapons. They extort the police, the politicians, even regular people. Cartels do one thing well: diversifying. Cartels sell more than drugs. Some have stolen gas right from the pipelines that stretch through the desert. One town was destroyed from an explosion caused by cartel oil theft. You underestimate the markup. Something that would sell for $10 in Peru sells for $100 in Colombia, and sells for $1,000 in Florida. This is a case where your statistics are not anywhere close to being right, and are estimations at best. That's just people who admitted to the study they use drugs. It doesn't account for all the people who don't admit to it. Not to mention where you draw your illicit. For example, cannabis is legal to use in posses in my state but illegal in the state over. So one state is using illicit drugs, the other isn't, even though they're using the same exact drug law. 2 words: whale hunting. It's the same business model used by casinos and free-to-play games. You find a small set of consumers who spend an egregious amount of money on your product because they are addicted. States say about 1% of the population uses hard drugs worldwide. A $100 week habit very cheap for many drugs. Some users will spend twice that in a day is $52,003.3 million, $17 billion year just in the US. Do you spend $50,000 a year on food per person in your family? That's what a crackhead might spend. High-value customers. One of the big important parts is that drugs tend to be illegal, which way raises the premium they can charge for the product. Production costs are really low compared to the high prices they can charge. Cartels do protection, enforcement, security, training, theft, crypto heists, silent partner in local businesses, logistics. Some cartels make more moving avocados than coke or fentanyl. It's because 1 of 7.8 billion is a huge number. Also, people lie. As an example, 3 of people worldwide subscribe to Netflix. That's because most of the world are poor people in India and China, and don't have access to much. They have diversified into things like avocados, concrete and limes, strong-arm extortion and cornering the market through violence. It was estimated that 37 million people in the USA were current illegal drug users in 2020, which is a larger percentage than your worldwide statistics. But that is what we have. The drug trade is estimated to bring in ca. $15 billion to Mexico annually, which is in turn estimated to be 70% of the traffic to the USA. This works out to a mere $580 person contribution to the cartel income. Not a big number by itself, but it adds up. Drugs are expensive, and even a small percentage of the USA population, which largely finances the Mexican cartels, is a big number. Drugs have a very huge profit margin. A street vendor can get as much as 100% profit, and this is after it has exchanged hands many times from the point of production. Now imagine owning the whole system from production to distribution. I can see how one can easily make over 1,000 profit. One of the companies I work with manufactures an awful lot of things. I'll let you in on a big secret. There is not a lot that gets done in the world without some involvement from organized crime or cartels of some kind. Do you think mob bosses are going to ignore a huge market such as metals or computers for very long? Hell, the very device you are reading this on very most likely required involvement from at least a couple of mobs in order to get it done. You can bet on that with your life. It's not an explain like I'm 5 answer. But you should read up on how the CIA was involved in the crack epidemic. That's not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory either. And in addition to drugs, cartels deal weapons and smuggle people across borders too. I'm sure they launder quite a bit of money. Ever watch Ozark? And have legitimate revenue streams as well. Because the markup on drugs is insane. Cocaine or poppies grow naturally and just need to be harvested and processed. And well, that labor is likely not paid very well due to the conditions where they live. Most products have a margin how much you sell it for minus how much it costs to make of maybe $5.50. I'm pretty drugs are like 98 profit. Drugs kill people. Doing stuff to get drugs kill people. New people find out about drugs and start doing them. The amount of people doing drugs stays about even and low because of the side effects of drugs. As a person who works at a cartel, I can tell you that what money any article shows is not even close to the money we make. Around 35-40 is lost between paying off patrol officers and politicians. Also during laundering process. I would say the most money WR make is from our recurring and loyal customers. And drugs are not the only thing we make money from. We are loan sharks as well. Our interest rate is high. And insurance we have is your body parts. Really easy to harvest and sell on the black